Hey everybody, Elizabeth Nader back with you tonight, the Nader Narrative, bringing you all our amazing candidates running for office this November 2nd. Beth Sawyer is running for State Assembly in Legislative District number 3. Beth, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth, for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And I want everyone to get to know you, your background, your reason for running, your passion of why you're doing this. So Beth, go ahead, tell us all about you.
So one of the biggest reasons why I'm running is I own a very successful real estate company in Woolwich Township, New Jersey. So I've had firsthand experience of dealing with property taxes on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I deal with people that are moving into the state and moving out of the state. And it's been such a fear for pretty much everybody that I'm dealing with. When we go look at properties prior to that happening, I have to get them pre-approved. So when we sit down with the lender and we start talking about the principal and interest, people are blown away that a lot of times the taxes are going to outweigh the principal and interest payment on a monthly basis.
Yep.
Where it really hit home for me was down in Salem County. I do a lot of business down there. I flip a lot of houses there. And, you know, it's a blue collar area. So I often wondered, how are these people putting food on their table? Once they make that mortgage payment, there's not really that much left over to cover the groceries and pay their utility bills.
Right.
So with that being said, it really made me have this inner drive that I have to make a change. Every year, our property taxes, they go up. When has anybody ever said that property taxes have come down?
Never.
Right.
Right.
We just had a reassessment in Woolwich Township, I believe in 2019. Actually, it was a 2020. I sold my house in May of 2020, and the taxes were roughly around $8,300. They're now about $10,500.
Ouch.
No garage.
No garage. And yeah, it doesn't make sense.
No garage.
Wow.
So with that being said, you know, and I deal with a lot of seniors as well. And their biggest fear is they work their entire lives. They take 30 years, they pay off their mortgage payment, and now they're left with, they have no mortgage, but the taxes have risen every year for the past 30 years that they can't afford to make just the mortgage, real estate payment and still pay their homeowner's insurance. So that's really hit home with me, where I feel like if we don't get a voice in Trenton, especially somebody who understands property taxes the way I do, somebody that I have a desire to bring them down and not raise them and be fiscally observant of that, they're just going to continue to go up and people are going to leave. They're not going to be able to afford to live here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what's happening. And I mean, clearly this is your number one issue. It's an important, intelligent issue, one that has not been addressed successfully for so long. In fact, Murphy's famous quote is, if taxes are your issues, this may not be your state. So we know he doesn't really seem to care about it. I look at the legislators and I think each one of them is paying a hefty property tax bill in some way. Do you think they would care about it? It's amazing to me that it hasn't bubbled up yet to the point. We're going to get to some point where I would think it would just be too much for everyone. People are leaving the state. Seniors have to leave in many cases. Families then are being broken up who don't want to be. The choices are just not there. So how do we, short of having a 3-hour seminar on this, because there are a lot of moving parts of property taxes, just at a high level, Beth, you're a businesswoman. How do we begin to approach this so that we can start to bring it back to some sort of normalcy?
Well, it's funny because a couple of years ago, Sweeney was a big fan of fair funding for the schools. And Kingsway still doesn't have the fair funding. Most of the schools don't have it. So I feel like they always make these campaign promises, promises made, promises broken. And it seems to be their pattern of every election. And people need to realize that and hold them accountable. Jack Chattarelli, who's running for governor, I met him back in 2019 and really was blown away by the fact that he gets it. He made a speech and he talked about how he redid his bathroom. He updated it. Yeah. And then he got a knock on the door from the tax assessor who said, okay, now we're going to charge you more taxes. That should not happen.
Right.
And Jack made a comment, so should I have been depreciating the value over the last 30 years? You know, so you need people that understand business, understand economics, how things come in, how things come out. Yeah. Jack being a tax accountant, a very successful one at that, with his fair funding formula for schools and leave no child behind, that's a huge start. Yeah. When you look at your tax bill, especially here in Woolwich Township, the county tax and the school taxes are astronomical. And you wonder why all these people are leaving the state. But then so let me give you an example. I live in zip code 08085. Okay.
Mhm.
That is composed of Swedesboro, Logan Township, and Woolwich Township.
Okay.
Now, I live literally less than a mile from the Logan Township line. Their taxes are significantly lower than ours. Now, they go to our high school. So a lot of frustration happens in Woolwich and Swedesboro, where they get frustrated that our taxes are so much higher than theirs. They do have their own elementary schools, K through 8. They do have a very large Pure Lands that subsidizes their taxes. We need to balance it out. It's not fair that somebody in Woolwich Township on the same priced house, their taxes could be $5,000, $6,000 more than the same house in Logan Township. Funny enough, Adam Teleferro happens to live in my town. You think he would be concerned.
Right.
He lives probably in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Woolwich. His property taxes, I guess I could look it up on public records, but if I had to guess, he just put a pool in, a big lanai in his backyard. He's probably put about close to $150,000 in the backyard. He built a detached garage. His taxes, I would say, are probably roughly $25,000. How can you afford that?
I don't know.
So you would think that he would be working hard and actually show up to vote. He's got one of the worst voting records that I've seen. Last year, he missed 38 votes. All he had to do was call in. During the pandemic, it was a call-in vote.
Right.
He couldn't even pick up the phone and call.
Wow.
So that's another reason that I'm tired of these politicians that get elected, and the only time you see or hear from them is during election time.
Yep, that's right.
And again, promises made, promises broken.
Right. Promise is broken. And, the other side of property taxes is spending. You can't just keep spending on every level and expect somehow magically to be able to address this issue. And this summer they passed the budget, and I don't know where he was with all of that, but I think they had 11 hours to look at it. So this has all been upside down. I mean, we definitely have a government that's functioning with one individual mainly in control, and a party that simply will not hold him responsible in any way. And as you say, your opponent has skipped, did you say 38 votes?
He's missed 38 votes, which I find funny. I don't know if you've heard about the commercial they put out about me that said I had a government job and I was a no-show voter, which I did have to get a laugh at that. I've never had a government paying job. It just, the spin on that was pretty much, you had to laugh at it because it was just so ridiculous.
Well, that has to frustrate you that I did read about that these commercials went out that were completely sort of pulled out of thin air. That does say to me to some degree that they're concerned that maybe the truth about their lack of performance is getting out to the voters. But as a businesswoman who's been successful and committed to really helping the state, that has to frustrate you when things are just simply made up.
Yeah, I mean, they did a great job of not standing up to Murphy during the whole pandemic. They let him do whatever he wanted with the executive orders. They never came out against him and said that they disagreed with anything. Berticelli has pretty much voted with Murphy in his direction of liberalism and socialism any chance he's ever gotten. And Terrafel just doesn't show up. So, if you want to continue to have these type of individuals represent you, then you'll vote for them. Right. If you're looking for somebody who wants to stay in the state and make it affordable for everyone, not just the elite. I mean, it's amazing to me that they just don't care. How do you not show up and vote for people that have elected you? You're getting paid a large salary to be there. I mean, most people don't even make that kind of money in the state. And it's twice a month when they're in session. And, and what's frustrating to me is you couldn't pick up the phone to vote. It wasn't important enough to you as a representative for the LD3 district to pick up the phone and call in and vote. So that was the other driving force for me where, they can say whatever they want about me. I'm open to talking to any resident. I always make myself available. My cell phone is very public because of the business that I'm in.
Sure.
And, during the recession, while they all basically did nothing, I helped more people sell and buy houses than I have probably in the 26 years I've been in this business.
Wow.
It's been a crazy market. A lot of people are moving out of the state because of the high taxes and because of all the shutdowns. A lot of people are heading south. So again, another reason why I feel that I have to run.
The time is right for you. So you're working hard. You're obviously door knocking, walking around the district, talking to people. So besides the tax issue, which is gigantic and needs to be fixed, what else are you hearing, Beth? What are there other concerns that constituents are saying to you that just they're so frustrated with, the things that they want you to focus on?
Well, the other thing is, seniors just with their retirement funds, the amount of income that they have coming in and going out. A lot of people concerned about their safety with, this big demand to defund police.
Right.
I back our men and women in blue. It's very important to me. I come from a military family. What's gone on in this country recently is it's disturbing.
Right.
And again, anything that I can do to help make this country better, I'm willing to do. And it starts right here with state assembly.
Yep, it does. And you know what? We need good people in the assembly. We can't just write it off as something that's never going to change. I believe this year we have some incredible candidates, you among them. We've got to try to begin to change the flow in the assembly. Let's talk about COVID, because it's the elephant in the corner constantly. That feels like it's sitting on our chest sometimes, right? So COVID response, it's been over 18 months now. We're looking at what Murphy did. It's easy to play, of course, Monday morning quarterback, but not that hard to see that a lot of these decisions were simply crazy. Do you think we're in a good position now, or would you still like to see some things change?
I think a lot of things that need to be changed. I think the first thing that needs to happen is that Murphy needs to be held accountable. Over 8,000 seniors and vets, they died because of him. He didn't care. And his response is they had to go home. It was their home. My parents recently passed away in the last 3 years. And I often say to myself, what would I have done if my parents would have been in a nursing home, healthy as can be, and he took their lives because he forced the administration to take in sick people? Right. That's just mind blowing that everybody is not up in arms about that. I know the FBI is still investigating the situation. I can't say enough of it. It hurts me deep. Yeah. I know a lot of veterans. I know a lot of seniors. I actually was visiting with the lady that I sold a house to. I helped her get into a assisted facility down in Woodstown 2 days ago. She's 92 years old. And I thought, what would have happened if she would have died of COVID because of these reckless mistakes that he's made? I don't even want to call them mistakes, because when somebody says to you, people will die, and you don't care and you go ahead and do it, there has to be accountability.
Has to be.
They shut down the schools. 1 out of 3 businesses went out of business forever. I mean, I'm very fortunate that I am in the real estate industry and our business thrived, but I know plenty of friends that have lost their restaurants. They've lost their small businesses. Yeah. And then you think about somebody who's had a small business and maybe they are in their 60s and now they have to go start all over again. Right. Where's the accountability for that? So the only way that we can fight back is we have to vote Murphy out.
Yes. Absolutely. We absolutely do. You're right. We have to hold him accountable, and people have to recognize that they need to show up. Typically this election cycle tends to be less turnout than a presidential election. And of course, the message to everyone is, if you're upset, get out and vote. Hold everyone accountable. Let's talk about our schools. Now, we've got children still masked up. If you watched any football this weekend, it's pretty crazy when you see these stadiums just packed full, right? People on top of each other. It's exciting to see that. It's very American. It feels like the old days, back to normal. Love everything about that. But then you turn around and you look at our schools and you look at these children sitting there with masks on their face, sitting so far apart from each other. What's going on? What is, Matt Rooney called it the left's fetish with the mask. How are we at this point where children are still being, frankly, in my opinion, abused with this?
I agree with you, Elizabeth. Fear mongering is a very strong thing. You can really get people to follow you if you scare them, if you inflict such fear in them. I mean, I know people that are still afraid to go out of their house. Now, I'm not going to say COVID's not real. It is very real. I've been fortunate that I do not know anybody personally that's passed away from COVID. I do have a lot of friends that have had it and they've gotten through it with the right medications or just no symptoms whatsoever. Yeah. But for Murphy to say that you have to mask a 2-year-old, or I guess it's 2 years old in one day, how is that not considered child abuse?
I don't know.
And again, I can't even imagine what these parents are going through. It's bad enough that they were locked out of their schools. They had to give up their jobs because they now had to become teachers. Forget about becoming providers. They now had to become teachers. Yep. they say God only gives you what you can handle. I say, thank God my kids are grown and I didn't have to go through that. But my heart goes out to the parents.
Yeah.
What they had to endure is mind blowing to me. And again, no accountability.
Right.
And then I often wonder, what did the kids do that didn't have internet or didn't have a computer? I know eventually they got it, but they lost days of education. They're not going to get that back.
Yeah.
What scares me is, these kids, I think, are going to be referred to as the COVID kids because of the amount of lost education.
Oh, wow.
One thing that I'm going to back Jack on 100% is that when he wins, there will be no mask mandates. These kids should not be in school, especially wearing a mask with the survival rate that they say that they have.
Yeah. He's said that many, many times, that no mandates like that. And it is child abuse. And I don't know how we allow, in our society, we allow this to happen. Our kids, you're right. I haven't heard anyone say that before. The COVID kids. Wow. That gives you pause, doesn't it? Because they have lost so much. They really, really have. It's not just about losing prom or graduation. We're talking about education. We're talking about socializing, being able to learn to read because you can see your teacher's face and see her lips move as she speaks to you. I mean, there's so much here that's just not okay. And now we're seeing parents step up. Are you seeing that in your district? We have so many people at Board of Education so upset. That encourages me. How about you?
A lot of teachers stepping up. The fact that the government's now calling him domestic terrorist is very alarming. I mean, I think people need to take note what's going on here. I grew up in Northwestern PA, and I talk to my friends up there often. And what they're doing up there is they're actually segregating the kids. They're making the vaccinated kids go in one room, the unvaccinated kids go in another. They're ostracizing those kids that are not vaccinated, and they're creating now division in our schools. School is supposed to be the safety zone. This is where kids can go and they can learn, and they don't have to have that fear of being ostracized because they're not vaccinated. It could be for religious reasons. Now, all of a sudden, it doesn't matter what your God is. The government's going to tell you what you have to do. It's unacceptable. It goes against our constitutional rights. And I will never support something like that.
So it's fair for me to say that you are for medical freedom, which is the choice of what to put in your body, versus the mandate from the government to tell you what you must put into your body. And, just over the river, unvaccinated people are not allowed to go into restaurants in New York City. I think if I told you that, Beth, 2 years ago, even 18 months ago, you would have said that's not happening ever in this country. Sometimes I wonder day to day if we're going to be shocked by anything anymore. What's next?
Well, it's funny that you bring that up. You're now being carded. You have to show your ID and your vaccination card to make sure you're the right person, but they don't ID you to go vote. Think of the hypocrisy on that. It's mind-blowing that people don't have a bigger issue with this.
Right.
You have to show your ID to go buy a pack of cigarettes. You got to show your ID to take a book out of the library. Now you have to show your ID to get into a restaurant. Why shouldn't you have to show your ID to vote?
I don't know, common sense. I mean, that critical thinking, common sense thing that you and I were raised on, we need it. And I think that brings us to a good point, which is get out the vote. And to everyone listening, people are concerned that their vote's going to count. But if we get numbers out, we can overcome any kind of fraud that's happening. And whether or not it does, we need people to turn out. So as you kind of wrap this up, Beth, I want you to give sort of a last push with your constituents, your future constituents, to tell them why it's so important. And as many people have said, just don't go down a column. Think about it. Think about who you're voting for and why you specifically, as a businesswoman, someone who sees things in the way that you've shared with us, you need to be part of our future and changing and saving this state, frankly.
I can't express enough. I know you've heard it before. Vote like your life depends on it, but it really does. These shutdowns have cost more than economic distress. They've also cost mass suicides and overdoses. It's alarming to me that more people aren't standing up. Maybe they're fearful because of being attacked on social media or at schools. I'm that voice. I'm willing to take on the fight. I'm somebody that you can believe in and trust in, that I will do the right thing. And it's not about party. I'm going to do what's right for the residents of New Jersey. If it makes sense and it's for the better good, I can guarantee you I'm going to vote for that. LD3 needs a voice. It needs a balance. Right now, it's being run by 3 men that could care less about women's issues. They probably can't even relate to women's issues because they're not women.
Right.
What better choice than to have somebody there for you that's going to speak for women, but also speak for the blue collar people in the 3 counties that I'm going to represent. I come from a blue collar family, and I understand what it's like to put food on the table. I'm a single mom. I raised my kids since they were 1 and 2. I'd never received child support. So I understand that struggle of when that check comes in, you've got to stretch it out, and you've got to decide, you got to keep, of course, a roof over your family's head, but then then it comes down to groceries and utilities.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I've been attacked by the Democrats for ridiculous stuff. And, I think that people need to realize when there's smear campaigns coming out there, they're scared. And you know what?
Yeah.
I want them to be scared.
Yeah.
I want them to know that I'm coming for them. I want their job, but I'm going to make a difference. It's not going to be promises made, promises broken. It's going to be promises made and promises kept. And when I can promise the people of my district, I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can to get these taxes under control. I don't want seniors laying awake at night wondering, how they're going to pay their property taxes and their homeowners insurance and still be able to keep the lights on and put food on their table. That's just, it should not be that way in this state.
Right.
We are the highest property taxes in the United States of America. This has got to stop. So I ask everyone, please get out and vote. It will make a difference. There's early voting that's happening from October 23rd to October 30th. And of course, then the regular voting day of November 2nd. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I am always available to talk to you. Elizabeth, I can't thank you enough for having me on here. I really
appreciate you, Beth.
Reach people.
You have a great voice. You have a great story. You're saying all the things that we need to hear. We celebrate common sense and critical thinking, and you're one of those that brings that to the table. And that's what we have to return to. Give people a website or an email, whatever you want for them to be able to reach out to you.
You can come right to my personal email address, which is bethsawyer1193@gmail.com. I'm even going to give you my cell phone number. You probably never had anybody do that before, correct?
There you go.
It's 856-725-5215. And again, you can Google my name. It's going to come up for real estate as well. My office is local in Woolwich Township. I'm the owner and broker of Sawyer Realty Group, and I am truly here to listen to you and understand your wants, your needs, and try to help you get what you deserve.
I love it. Well, Beth, it's great. You said so many incredibly important things. We're excited for you, cheering you on. And as everyone continues to hear from us, vote. Get out and vote. There's so many ways to do it this year. There's really no reason not to, but this is the year is really going to change everything. As Beth said, like your life depends on it. This is the year. So Beth, thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we're excited to see what happens.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
To my audience, guys, check Beth out. Check out her information online. Support, donate. It takes money to win campaigns. So please consider all of that if you're in the district and you know anybody in the district, you just want to help good candidates throughout this state, because Beth going to the assembly helps all of us in every district. Beth, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, have a